Welcome. My name is Nick Henderson. Welcome to Thursday's industry session on tech in the music industry. I'm so excited to facilitate this conversation. This is something that is really near and dear to my heart because I am a lover of music and because I am a millennial / Gen Z. I'm like right on that benchmark. I am a tech baby. So this conversation is super crucial for just the times that we are in right now. I don't know if you all are new here or not, but I'm going to give you a little rundown all about Music Forward. Music Forward is a nonprofit organization that serves youth ages 13 to 22, and we are just here to transform the lives of young folks who aspire to have a career in music, and we champion a more inclusive industry, and we offer opportunities such as career and artist development opportunities for artists to pursue their love for music and to dive into the industry and to really, really get to the nitty-gritty of their passions. I am just so excited because we have, as always, amazing guests that join us week after week to share their expertise and to just aid us in aiding us in just this world of music. And I'm really excited to hop into just introducing these lovely faces that we see right now. I first want to introduce the incomparable Kam. I'm so excited to have Kam here. He has an amazing background in music and technology. He completed his undergrad degree in computer science with a minor in music. And he has literally done everything: music production, songwriting, digital distribution, and he's in the nitty gritty of tech. He's totally in the tech world. And he launched Notetracks. And Notetracks is a workflow and productivity tool designed for music creators and collaborators. It combines powerful documentation, audio, communication, tools to write, record, and to collaborate. And it's been often referred to as Google Docs for musicians. So that's Kam. Kam, thank you so much for joining us. Next, we have Alex, my man Alex. What's up, Alex? He is the founder and CEO of Boomy, a company using artificial intelligence to create instant music. I'm so excited for him to dive into that. That's just such a really cool invention. I love it. Mitchell is a serial musical entrepreneur who previously founded Audio Kit Research, the leading market research service for independent music, which was acquired by Reverb Nation in 2016. Welcome, Alex. Super excited to have you. And last but not least, we have the lovely, spunky, vibrant Allie. She's like, keep it coming, keep it coming. She also, too, has literally had her hand in everything. She started her career writing music for VH1 and MTV. She also founded Hyperactive Music Magazine, which has literally over 1,200 locations nationally. And that also transferred into a music festival and conference with over 200 bands and 60 speakers annually. Also, too, she had the pleasure of working with Rachel Ray's entertainment company, Watch, and was a co-creator and producer for the Rachel Ray Feedback Southwest by Southwest. I am just so excited. She has so much experience. She's worked with labels. She's literally done everything. And I know that you all have such a profound history in tech. So I just want to open the floor. Kam, let's start with you. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and just your, your background?
Cool. Well, thanks for the awesome introduction, and thanks for having me here. So yeah, my journey starts as an early childhood piano player. I come from a music-oriented family. I used to play keys at a young age, then got into hip-hop culture. I was an aspiring rapper at a point. I could still spit some bars. And I got into DJing. So DJing was my first kind of startup where I would, do the clubs, rock parties, etc. Took that through my teenage to adult years. And if you've got a bit of talent, which I did with regards to the keys, and what a hit record sounds like because you're playing it for crowds, you want to transition to what I like to say, make the hit instead of play the hit. So I got into music production and songwriting, started writing songs, getting them placed. But I felt that my production was never at the level that I wanted it to be. At the same time, my parents were like, okay, enough with the music thing, have something to fall back on, just in case. I did a major in computer science just to understand how the software I was working with was built. And I did a minor in music just to keep myself motivated. And in that minor is where the inception of Notetracks came about. We were analyzing tracks on the radio or popular songs, and we were taking down notes referencing what was going on in the track. Like 30 seconds, the bass comes in, 45 seconds, chord progression change. And I go, wow, it'd be really cool in one of my music programs to be able to have a note-taking track. I want to be able to write a paragraph underneath the waveform. When I graduated, I started working in tech just because of my background, but I was always missing, working on music. I would constantly look for jobs in the music industry. It was on Craigslist at the time, typing in, music. I had a brief stint. My first stint in music tech was distribution of ringtones. I found this small little tech company that needed somebody to manage the catalog and the technology to send and receive files. And at the same time, they needed somebody to handle the business development and marketing. It was a real small startup with 3 to 5 people. But I was brought in to kind of sail the ship. And it was the best job of my life. I mean, I would walk in there, play with music, edit files, distribute them, to cell phone providers, and probably work, 5 times as hard, but it never felt like work. But that industry soared when the iPhone came out, and I got back into mobile apps and web projects, moving away from music. But I came to a point where there was this idea that I had, and I needed to pursue my personal passion in finishing up those songs. And I said, hey, I could go ahead and build this thing now with a small team. And worst case scenario, it would be an expensive piece of gear. But I'm sure some folks would benefit. Went ahead and built it and turned into a startup. And the startup's been, funded by grants, by investors, and we've just been able to grow year after year. So riding that wave, it's been great. That's the brief, long story short, or short story long.
Thank you so much, Kam. I'm really excited to hear more and hop into all the amazing gems that I'm sure you have based on your experience. Alex, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. I almost want you to do it. You're so much better than I would be at talking about it. Also, Kam, where are you? You look like you're in an evil lair somewhere. Are you like, Allison and I were in this white void. You're like what are you plotting in that room?
I'm in an office space. I'm in a boardroom right now.
Man, you could have really come up with something better than that right now. Really I'll
have to transition
to a boardroom.
Yeah, there we go.
I'll transition to my whiteboard. Is that better?
I was worried there for a second. I was like, what is he planning? Okay, so yeah, quick background on me. Started as a performer in high school, electric violin. I thought that was cool at the time. And just by a fluke happened to go what we now call viral on this new platform called YouTube at the time, and that led to a fan base and a label deal and a couple international tours. And I got to see sort of the artist side of things very early in my career, which was great. And kind of started realizing, touring wasn't as fun as I thought it was going to be. It was mostly bus. I took several jobs kind of around the music industry, did a joint program at Fordham University in music and started getting more into technology. I was lucky enough that I was a nerdy kid and taught myself how to code when I was younger, and launched a product called AudioKite. Which ended up over a few years becoming the leading A&R research platform for independent musicians. And at the time that we sold the company, it was selling probably about half to big companies, big media companies, and selling half directly to artists. And spent a couple years at the company that acquired that one. And this past year, I've been building a team and working on applications of artificial intelligence to what we call instant music creation. It's sort of very forward-thinking field, pretty bleeding edge, pretty crazy stuff. I'm happy to say, we've been able to find venture backing. We've been backed by some of the biggest music companies in the world, and we are very, very early into the company cycle, but seeing our users have created over 500,000 songs. We're getting millions of streams per month. in our catalog. So a lot of traction happening very quickly, which we're thrilled to see. So I've been living in both the worlds of, how do you build teams and create, create technology from conception, ideation through application, and then the making money part. And also these days, a lot of the policy side. So looking at questions of what do you do about copyright in the world of works that are produced, in highly automated ways or AI produced, for example. So there's a lot of policy work that I've been doing lately too on that front. So happy to speak to anything on tech, anything on building companies, working in various aspects of the industry. I've had a very specific and lucky career to date.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Allie.
I'm gonna follow those guys, man.
I know, right?
Yeah. I would have to say, I don't really rarely tell a story. My music career kind of started back when I was 10, just a wee little pup of 10. And I wanted to play the drums. I really, really wanted to learn how to play the drums. But I think, my parents thinking that maybe, that I would be better off suited playing the flute, got me a flute instead of letting me play the drums, which I absolutely was not happy about. So I had accidentally lost the flute, and which was, I walked 3 blocks and threw it away. And started, and after that, they let me play the drums. So I played the drums for a while, all through, I was even in the band in high school and all that stuff. Afterwards in college, I became a journalist, music journalist. I was the editor for my college, music editor for the college newspaper. I started writing for MTV. I got hired as a local stringer and then got hired on for MTV and VH1, which I wrote for several years when they had the news on the, when their website used to be really popular and you go and read all the articles and stuff. And that was fun, getting to fly around the country and interview artists. And then after that, I started my own music magazine that ended up going national, and we were in a lot of locations. And then from there, I did work with Rachel Ray. From there, I started producing festivals, and that's still a lot of what I do now too. So I produce and talent buy festivals. And so and then at some point I got hired by Rachel Ray, and we had a lot of fun. I worked for her for years, and we and her husband, and we had just a blast with everything we got to do there. And then somewhere along the ways, I started getting into music tech. I went to my first Meetum in 2009 and met a lot of people in music tech. And I started working. One of my very first music tech projects kind of was a company called Dot Music, which just the people just won the application to have Dot Music as it's a new top level domain, TLD, that's going to be coming out. And I was with him for, I don't know, a couple of years, I think. And from there I started working with more, and I started doing strategic business development for music tech companies, and I've worked with some really great companies, including Presently Mizuka, which is a great company that manages digital artist assets for over 2 million artists. And we've also automated set list reporting, so you can now report set lists from your phone in seconds. A lot of artists don't know that once they've played a set, they can actually report that set list and get paid for it. So it's a super cool platform. Yeah. So that's, what else? I don't know. There's so many other things.
No, right?
I built out brands too, like outside of music, but yeah.
Wow. Thank you all so much for sharing you all's backgrounds. That just provides a lot of context as to why you all are the professionals here and why we have you all here to really unpack technology. And, technology, I know for me, that's all I've ever known all of my life. And whether that be just in my everyday life or whether that be in music. And I think that music is just seeing such an influx in technology. I think that it's always like a cash race to see who comes out with the best, technology to move and advance, music forward. So music forward, see what I did there. So I would love to know specifically, and anyone feel free to start the conversation off. I just want to know the specific role that you all play within tech, and it may be specific to you all's companies. So actually, Kam, would you like to, kick off just a conversation on what role you play specifically with Notetracks?
Great. Well, I am the founder, so I'm the CEO. Basically run the company. But I mean, with regards to the product, the tech, I would say that I'm more of the product manager. It comes from the idea comes from a personal need that I had. So it was basically building my dream piece of instrument. So I'm basically hiring designers and developers to be able to build this piece of gear. But at the same time, bringing on folks that understand what the requirements are and are able to execute. So there's lots of things that you do as a founder of a company. You're out there speaking for the company. You're out there doing marketing, business development, fundraising. But my heart and the reason why this process started was because I needed this tool. So I'm passionate about music. I needed this tool. I need to get this tool to go back to my passion. I'm sure other people along the way have understood where this thing is going and can use it. But at the end of the day, I feel like I take on a product management type of role besides being the founder of the company.
Awesome. Allie, how about you?
My role is many and varied. For music companies, for a lot of them, what I do is lead development, a lot of lead development. So for me, that means going to whatever it is on the partners that we need. So that could mean going to labels. It could mean going to festivals. It could mean going to artists. It could mean going to other tech companies, music tech companies that we could partner up with, publishers. There's so many other aspects to this for that, and bringing on those partners for us. I also help raise capital for companies too. So that is an important thing, is having a little stash of investors that I can go to. And then branding. I mean, the most important thing that we do together is build out strategy and getting, whatever, and it was speaking music tech per se. And a lot of it isn't bringing fans. A lot of it is cloud-based. So a lot of it is not something I'm trying to bring fans or something over to. It's more, with artists, especially I'll just mention with Mazuka. We're trying to get on as many artists as possible because we want to help them get paid. This is one of the biggest problems in the country, or the world actually. But seriously, is how the payouts happen for live performances. We want to make sure all the artists that are performing are getting paid. So a lot of us is going out and educating them on why what they need to know about how they can make that money that they don't. I've had so many artists, I've sat and spoke on panels and seen so many artists out of 100% of a room, like 60% of the room didn't know they could report a set list, and out of the other ones, there might be another 20% that did know, but they just don't do it because it's too tedious. And now with this platform, you can do it, in literally a minute, and so, and for me, and then like I said, building out the strategy, and being smart. I also help, I make sure that we're in the right places, the right conferences, getting the clients that I work with on panels. I mean, there's so many aspects to what I do with how I work with a company.
Absolutely. And that's just awesome that, you all have your hands in so many different areas. And Allie, I love how you, expounded on the artists. And we have, a ton of artists joining us, now. So I think especially, in 2020 in a COVID, world, everyone, artists, they're trying to monetize and use.
Can I plug something really fast for that?
Absolutely.
I'm also I'm going to just do it. I'm on the board of directors for a nonprofit music charity called Sweet Relief. And we have a COVID-19 fund that's been set up, that we set up immediately to help musicians, and we've also expanded it to help industry workers, gig workers, freelancers. Anybody that works in music can now go and apply, and I'll put the link in the chat there, can go and apply for this fund, and we give you guys a grant to help you pay some bills. So it's free money just sitting there, and I would encourage everybody to get on and apply for it, because I know that, you know, times are very tough right now. They have been, especially in California here, especially in LA. We've rolled back on our opening when we went back down a phase. So, you know, and I know a lot of other states are still shut down a lot. So, I mean, this is something, if anybody out there who works in the music industry and a musician should go and apply for this fund. I'll do it right now. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
That's like, because we want to help out as many people as we possibly can.
Yes. It was Sweet Relief. That's the name of it, right?
Sweetrelief.org. I'm going to do it right now.
Awesome.
Ali, they want to know your Instagram handle too, so put that
My
in.
Instagram handle is Manic
Drop that.
Monkee with 2 E's. There's no Y in Monkee. It's Manic Monkee. There we go.
Manic Monkee. Follow her right now. Alex, all right. Last but not least, tell us a little bit about your role and the specifics of that.
Yeah, sure. And it might help to add some context for how it's changed a lot in this role versus previous roles I've taken. Traditionally, I've held product roles. I've been an advisor or taken on sort of advisory senior executive positions at companies that are trying to figure their product out, right? Which is a great place to be, because it keeps you honest, right? The success metrics for any product are, you know, have to stay very honest and very close to the customer. And in my first company, where we were selling to artists, which is a tough group to sell to, and selling to the music industry, which is an even tougher group to sell to, staying really close to the product was all I did. So I was writing the code. We had a very small team. We didn't take funding really, or not very much. We funded ourselves very much with our sales, and we kind of lived or died by our sales, right? Built that up into enough of a cash flow where it made sense to sell the business. Now, running something that's very different, which is a venture-backed startup working in technology that is unprecedented. It's one of these things where I wrote some code in the beginning, right, and kind of started out this process and sort of proved out some of the underlying technology concepts. But we're working with sort of, you know, top level engineers out of Stanford, out of these great programs into an area that is still being proven out with an unknown business model. And that role is very, very different from staying with a product and customers, and because you have to do all that stuff. But a lot of what I do is you know, interfacing with investors for sure, but also making sure that the investors who are already in the company and tracking and funding this technology are kept up to date on how it's going on. A lot more on the policy side, a lot more of advocacy and sort of growth. And then if I had to say what my role is mostly right now, it's as a team builder, right? There's a pool of money, and then there's fantastic people that come in to work on this tech, and it's gone very, very quickly, partially because there's dedicated people, right, to doing all of those sort of like product facing things that I've done in previous roles. So it's a very different experience running a sort of a Silicon Valley venture backed company versus a bootstrapped, like, live or die by your sales company. And every company eventually becomes live or die by your sales, right? And so we are counting our revenue, we are keeping our burn down, we are reacting COVID like every other company in Silicon Valley right now. And that the role is multifaceted for sure, but it's moved personally for me a little further away from writing code every day, right, and more towards advocacy, policy, team building, fundraising, and all the stuff you got to do to make something like this that nobody's ever tried before work, right? Knowing the whole time that it's an experiment in some ways.
Absolutely. I appreciate you explaining that. There's so many facets and sides to just tech, and even I don't know why it didn't cross my mind, but even the interpersonality of it, you know, as you were saying, like team building and all, you know, it's so much. And I know that technology has evolved so much just year after year and just over, you know, the last several decades. So you know, this is free game. Whoever would like to chime in on this, just from your perspective, you know, how has technology and music like just seemed to evolve in the past like 3 to 5 years, in your opinion?
Wow, I'll jump in. I mean, on first thought, I think accessibility. So, I mean, I remember like when I started off this journey, it was really, you know, again, to produce a software for production and songwriting at a certain time. So I was writing songs, I was producing a certain time. Fast forward, you know, I'm on a track to build software, and I'm moving away from production. But now that the software is built, I've gotten back into it, you know, finishing up those songs, or, you know, kind of completing the story. You know, the software was built to be able to finish those tracks. Now we're back in making music, and like game changer to today, you know, you have so much access to so many sounds, to so many different tools. You know, back in the days, we used to have like these, you know, sound sample CDs or, you know, drum machines you'd have to load sounds into, and it would take time to be able to. Nowadays you could go to, you know, XYZ website and, you know, download sample packs, or even use tools such as Alex, you know, to have a computer help you generate music, you know, collaborate with AI machines. So yeah, access, and I'm not just talking about access with regards to, you know, sounds. I'm talking access with regards to collaborators. I mean, I could see the chat going, you know, through right now, and there's, you know, at least, you know, 20, 25 people, you know, that are open to collaborate, you know, that you could just connect with right now, you know, DM on Instagram, you know, and just be like, hey, I like what you're doing, etc. So you know, back in, you know, I don't want to make myself sound old, but I'm just saying 3 to 5 years ago, you're still like looking, it was still a bit harder. There weren't so many opportunities to be able to, you know, another platform I think about is Sound Better, where, you know, before, when I used to have to, you know, find maybe a demo artist to sing the song the way I like, you know, I wanted to, I would have to find that person to pitch my song. Now I could go on to Sound Better and find, you know, the individual that sings the song the way that I'd want to, and just be able to contact her. So there's so much access that technology is provided. It's incredible. I mean, it's kind of, you know, not that difficult to make you know, a great piece of work, and at the same time distribute it. The last component is obviously getting it out there. So you got your distribution platforms to be able to get the song onto your Spotify's, and then the marketing tools. That's the last component. So I mean, it's a game changer. Just thinking back about, you know, what's happened in the past 3 to 5 years, the companies that are out there, the multiple companies that are doing, you know, similar types of things that allow, you know, users to be able to create, you know, optimize and distribute. Amazing.
Absolutely, Cam. You know, I think just about how we have so much power with just like a phone, you know, in our hands. You know, literally just with a simple application, we have access to just literally a whole world. And I think that, you know, as we move forward, and as you know, stated, like accessibility is key, and that's what everyone is expecting. It appears to me within technology, everything just has to be easy, just a click of a button, or just something that you can kind of just fall into, nothing hard to, you know, find. And I think that is really crucial with technology, is really catering to the needs of just whoever your audience is. So Allison, I know that you want to chime in.
Yeah, I think, you know, I agree. I with the phone at your hands and everything, I was going to say, you know, I'm a Gen Xer. At the very end of the Gen Xer. And I come from a time where computers weighed 1,000 pounds and phones were installed on your wall in a cradle, or like a little touch tone. Cam, we were just talking about this, right? Where these
rotary dial.
Yeah, rotary dial phones. And in that world for musicians, and technology, that it just was non-existent. I mean, you know, back from that time when bands, you know, were still having to get in a van and tour. And with adaptability happening now, you know, we've seen, and certainly during the COVID experience, we've seen a vast array amount of live streams happening. It's basically every moment there's a live, literally at some point during COVID, I felt like every hour I could see another musician playing. It was a lot. There's festival, and I love that all of it was happening. Sweet Relief was the beneficiary of a lot of these live streams, and we were so happy for that. And then just to be able to watch a lot of live music. I mean, I know it's not the same experience, but at least it's music and we can see it, you know. And I think also the fact that musicians have kind of taken over platforms that actually weren't necessarily created with them in mind. And I'm thinking a lot, you know, first and foremost, I'm thinking about Twitch, and how musicians are now, and it's only been really in the last year or so, are adapting to utilizing Twitch. I know people that are on Twitch making 6 figures now a year. I have a friend that's on Twitch that started in October, and she has a ton of followers on there. And she has been, and I think when I first started, from October until like April, she had made over $100,000. And I was like, what? Wow. And so, and a lot of these people are, I'll plug it if anybody wants to get on Twitch. I have a really close friend and wants to monetize on Twitch. A close friend of mine wrote a book. Her name's Karen Allen. It's called Twitch for Musicians. Very, very, very close friend. And her book is wonderful. And I would definitely go and check out the book. You can get it on Amazon and all the other places and see, and it gives you a tutorial on how to be a monetizing musician on Twitch. Also TikTok. Musicians have taken over TikTok and are making tons of money on TikTok. Instagram, as we saw during COVID, and if a lot of you guys know, Instagram wasn't necessarily the place where musicians were getting on to monetize. Now they're doing all their live festivals and shows on there. And as we saw, it could be it could be an amazing accomplishment for musicians. Case in point, D-Nice. D-Nice started DJing one night in March for like 8 hours. And it's a guy that's already accomplished, of course. He was, Boogie Down Productions. He was in Boogie Down Productions. He was in a bunch of, he was a hip hopper from a very young age. But he only had 200,000 followers when this whole thing started, less than 200,000 followers. And by, within a few days, within like 2 weeks, he was up to 8 million followers. He had people like Michelle Obama and Janet Jackson and Beyonce and all these people watching his stream, and it just became very big for him. So I think for a lot of people, you know, these necessarily things, you know, like if you haven't adapted to some of these things, that could be just money sitting there for you. You can gain a good new following with this. I know I had one other platform in mind, but I think it's about adapting new ways of getting your name out, especially now, you know, obviously during this time, we can't go see you perform, you know, you really can't there's, you know, that whole thing is not happening. And so it's a great way to utilize while everybody is sitting at home with, you know, most of us still in lockdown or quarantine or whatever. Is now a great time to get in front of people because we have nothing better to do than be on these platforms. So
absolutely,
yeah.
Allie, you steered the conversation right to the next point, which is our new norm, which is, you know, COVID, where everything is virtual, everything is, you know, Zoom, and like you've already stated, we've seen such a, you know, huge shift and just initiative put into monetizing on, you know, these digital platforms, and also just seeing how it's forced people to become really creative in, you know, tech. So I feel, Alex, for you personally, you know, how do you feel like, you know, folks in tech have responded to just the new norm of COVID?
Sure. Also, quick +1 for the Karen Allen plug. It's a great book, and she's amazing, and everybody should, if I was an artist still or performing artist, like absolutely go read that book, because it's one example of many examples of things that people are doing to try to figure out how to exist. I would say we're not even we're not even close to the new normal, right? We're still in the chaos period, right? We're still in like everybody's learning Zoom and like all the buttons, and everybody's trying to figure out how to and we're in a totally unprecedented environment. Obviously, you know, tech. That's, I mean, how is the Silicon Valley world going to it? You know, here's one example, is that in March there was a big question around how is fundraising going to work now? Because when you raise money, it's an in-person experience. It's something where you are developing a relationship, right? It's almost never hi, here's a business plan, check please, thank you, goodbye. You're flying to these cities and you're sitting down for drinks, and there's something called a VC dinner, which is something that they do when it's time to close and you're negotiating, and it's all very physical, it's all very in person. And that just, boom, gone, right? So the question is, do deals even happen? Do deals happen over Zoom? Is it going to depress valuations? There are all these big questions. And I think again, this is I would separate like tech as a whole from like the way Silicon Valley thinks about things, because they are a little bit different. But one of the things that we've seen in the chaos so far is a really extraordinary adaptability, I think, right? Now that we have the benefit of a few months in, people are closing deals on Zoom. Business is trying to do its best to get to normal. But there are sort of macro effects that you can't ignore. So the layoffs of engineers, for example, right? That's something that is very different. You don't usually see Airbnb, right, or these huge high growth companies just about to IPO laying off tons of employees. That creates market dynamics. So you have all these new engineers out there, right? And a lot of them have great severance. A lot of them are creating new companies, right? So we're going to see a flood of new startups, probably startups that are looking at different ways that people can do things that they used to do, or open up new markets in the context of COVID, or in the context of things like telework and all that. And in the music sphere, you know, live is just gone for a while, right? There's just nothing you can do about that. Big festivals and in-person concerts and raves and DJ, like all this stuff is just on pause. It's not going to go away forever, right? But there are, you know, Karen's work and some of the work of that people are doing to try to fill in that blank, I think is really important to pay attention to. And I think the most important thing to take away is that, like many things in technology, it's not settled. There are many markets that are opening up so quickly. We're talking about TikTok and live streaming. I spend a lot of time thinking about Spotify and thinking about streaming. Like, streaming is still kind of a new thing, and we become so used to it now. But your previous question, you know, 3 to 5 years ago, 5 years ago, the whole global market for music streaming was 2.8 billion. And last year it was 12 billion. That's a lot of growth to have in 5 years. And by 2030, it's going to be 40, 50 billion. So there's all this money flooding into royalties, no money now in live. And that's the kind of thing where, as you know, people looking in where to point a career focus, right? Go to where the opportunity is, right? Go to sort of lean into the change, because I can tell you, you know, there are things that are not necessarily obvious that are occurring because of COVID as well. I have a lot of friends in the classical music industry, right? And classical music and symphonies, you know, they were kind of teetering on. It's been tough, right, for a lot of these smaller orchestras in different counties. So New York Phil is probably going to be fine. Dallas Symphony is probably going to be fine, but Grand Rapids Symphony, you know, what's going to happen there? And it reveals, and what COVID has done is it's revealed the truth of certain markets, right? And so you look at that, you look at the symphony market, and it's revealed that, you know, this is something that's being propped up by a lot of grants, by a lot of a population that admittedly is probably aging and is the last population that's going to start going back to concerts again. It's expensive to run orchestras. There's a lot of people. how our orchestra is going to be funded, what is happening. I had somebody who's a great friend of mine who's a cellist describe it recently as a neutron star imploding on itself, as to what's happening in their industry. And so this is the time to think about where to lean in, where can we find solutions, how do you figure out how to readjust, because that's what people are great at. I mean, that's why we're humans, right? Is we can figure out how to solve those really tough problems. And technology is just an extension of the solution of those problems. Technology can't solve all of our problems. The technology in a vacuum is useless. It's what do people want to do? How do you sort of meet those needs and those demands? And I, whatever the normal looks like in a year to 2 years will look abnormal 5 years later, right? So there's always a constant adjustment in technology to what are people doing. Keeping in a first principle, the technology is just computers and bits. It's not behavior, right? It's the behavior that is really kind of the interesting thing to look at. So I don't know, I've been ranting for a while, but that's kind of my take on COVID. I think it has a lot to do with just people's ability to meet the new challenges and not overlook areas where there might be solutions that could be very lucrative, or start your career in a place where you can find a solution or be part of that solution.
Absolutely. You just dropped a ton of gems, by the way. You weren't ranting. That was really informative. And it just and it just made me, just think about how, when COVID was first, really peaking, we were hearing how, companies like Microsoft and Google and, all these major like companies, they were rallying, around this, and they were really, trying to implement change and really trying to figure out ways to use, their platforms to, just bring awareness and raise money. So I think that this time has created just a culture of camaraderie in many spaces. And we're really seeing that with music. Ali, as you mentioned, D-Nice, that was a moment. Like, that's a moment that will, despite, COVID and what its effects will be in the future, that'll be something that we can look back on and be like, this was something that was, like essentially like revolutionary. We have like a DJ, a well-known DJ who is on Instagram Live, totally like casual. He's just at his house, and he wasn't expecting for it to become like this, spectacle, but, it grew, and it essentially was a moment where everyone came together to enjoy music. It was so many backgrounds, ethnicities, like all that joined together, and I think that's the power of music.
A lot of folks, sorry to interrupt, but a lot of folks in the chat are mentioning the Versus sessions also. Shout out to Timberland and Swiss Beats, but that's the high. I'm a hip hop fan, so I mean, even a reggae fan. They did a couple of reggae sessions with like Bounty Killer and Beanie Man with 500,000 people there streaming live, and I go, I wouldn't have been able to see these two individuals in the same room and spend an hour of my time, just thinking back to all the reggae tunes that I would play at parties, at clubs, that people still today, jam out to. And here you have like two top performers. So like the highlight of the COVID moment was something, something of that sort, where two individuals, put together something on Instagram, and now it's, partnering up with Apple to get to a bigger audience. So it's those moments like that are for sure gonna last a long time.
Absolutely. I hope that, and I do see this happening with just many initiatives and pivots that have been made, whether it's in music or, even your local grocery store where you're like, you have to social distance. Like, these are things that I feel like we'll probably implement even after this. And Versus, I love that. And I love the, as I stated before, the camaraderie of these artists come together to, obviously it was deemed as like a competition, but we know it's just like a friendly moment to just join together and enjoy music. And as we're discussing COVID, a question popped up from Adrian. Her question was for Ali. She said, where do you see the future in music? Where do you see the future in music festivals, like in regards to incorporating like COVID-19 safety protocols? And do you view this as an opportunity for a shift for artists to have more control in their career because they can plan to do concerts virtually?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you have more control over what's happening virtually than you do at a live venue or whatever, because other people are doing that, the promoters and all the other people that are involved in that production. An artist, may not have as much, I mean, unless you're the Rolling Stones or U2 or something, an artist may not have as much control as they can over their own virtual live stream. When it comes to regards to what's going on with festivals as we know it are definitely not going to be the same anymore. Just like flying isn't the same anymore. That check-in process is incredible, I heard. So the same thing, I think there's going to be, measures. I think, obviously we're talking here that we won't see festivals again until 2021 or possibly 2022. I mean, people are moving them out and being, super safe. And obviously as should, I mean, our cases here in the U.S. are very sky high right now. We're having world record days every day here. Not world record, you know what I mean, record days. Anyway, but yeah, I think that I happen to know and be privy to a lot of Zoom conversations with a lot of promoters and a lot of agents and people that put together these festivals, that there is a lot of measures are going to have in place. They will have to be very safe, and that is one thing that is very important to them. Even with the drive-in theaters and stuff like that, they have safety precautions there. And that's kind of tending where we're drifting a little bit right now. Is we'll see a resurgence or insurgence of the drive-in festival. We even have one coming here that'll be on boats in September. So I mean, yeah, you can get on a lake and go. I don't know if it's Echo Park Lake or where it is exactly, but I just saw the announcement for that. They'll be doing a boat drive up. And so, yeah, I mean, like they're going to have to be, because nobody wants to have that festival and be like, oh my God, there's 2,000 cases of COVID here now. So I think that I know that they happen to be doing very big planning on how they're going to, how when they bring back festivals, what it's going to look like from entry to exit.
Absolutely. It should be pretty interesting to see how things evolve and how we inch back to the normal we once knew. Before we hop into just a brief Q&A, Alex, you mentioned this earlier just about those folks who desire to pursue a career in tech and kind of helping them to, identify where to start. So anyone can chime in on this, but, what is you guys' advice for just someone who desires to pursue a career in technology?
Super easy answer. Learn how to code. And that can mean anything. That can mean a lot of different things. Code is a broad term. You might like doing front end stuff, designing. Tools like Figma make that very, very easy to go from something visual to something that's code driven. You might be a nerdier and you like the back end. You like figuring out how systems work and stay alive. But I think the thing that is probably, if you're starting out your career, and if I think back on my career, that was the skill that made the difference between being able to do things and not being able to do things, right? Because there's a lot of MBAs around. There's a lot of people who have sort of like a very strong theoretical knowledge on technology, and that's great. And you need those people. You have to have those people on your team. It can't all just be technologists. But if you are going to start a career in tech, right, you should know what happens when you type in google.com and press enter, right? You should be able to explain that process, and you should understand, and learning how to code is actually just a way of learning how to think through problems in a way that's logical, that you start eventually realizing can apply to all sorts of other kinds of problems that you'll run into if you start a business, or if you join a team, or if you work on team dynamics. So if you're looking to start or get in, I mean, especially now, geez, there's so many free resources out there for people, and there tends to be this wall that goes up where it's like, that's math, that's not something I want to do. But it's not math, it's creative. It's very, very similar to music. I would argue that if you can create music in any meaningful way, code will be very natural for you. like it was for Kam, because it's a similar part of the brain. It's a similar kind of creativity within a structure. And just like learning how to read music or play an instrument, it's kind of like learning a language. And I think people are shocked at, 1 hour a day, 8 months of your time, you probably can now get a job as a front end developer in some company somewhere. It's either a startup or an established company. So if somebody wants to get started in tech and for music or for anything, understanding which part is interesting to you. Maybe design is interesting. Maybe figuring out just how to use some of these libraries on GitHub is interesting. But there's a ton of free resources. There are schools now that pay you. That's not a scam. That to learn how to code, and you only pay them if they put you in a job. Like Lambda School is talked about a lot out here. And they've been seeing success-ish with that model. But you're only going to see that more because there's a difference between computer science and being a computer scientist, and then being somebody who understands code well enough to build stuff and ship stuff, and then eventually build a team around it. So I would say, yeah, that's my number one thing. Like learn what technology is, how it works. It's not this hugely difficult thing that you have to be a super genius to understand. It's accessible. It's only become simpler over time with frameworks and with tools that you can start visual. So I think that would be my answer is learn how to actually build the stuff, right? Because that'll help you anywhere you go in your career.
And I'll just speak from my end. And what Alex said is amazing. But for me, as a person that doesn't code and works with technology companies still, I think it's about finding if you want to go into the not be on the developer side, engineer side, but you want to move more towards what I do, which is strategic business development and building out brand companies. Is learn what technology is out there. Learn the roles of the people that play a part in the platforms that you're looking at, and find what's a good fit for you. And that's kind of what I do when I get drawn into it. And learn all the information you can. If about the company, if you want to go after a particular company, learn all the information that you can. Know how the platform works. Know the logistics and the history behind it, because they love that stuff. And also, know the competition as well. It's very important for me when I work with clients to know who we are competing against and what they do and what we differ, and what more can we do, of course, to come out ahead, or whatever. I mean, it's a weird world, this music tech thing. It seems very competitive, but a lot of it is very, we hold your hand, and a lot of the people have similar products, but I see them all working together, in partnership in a lot of ways too. And so I think that is kind of the thing about getting into technology, music tech from my side, from the creative side, I guess you would put it, and understanding it more. And then going out there and finding a role that you feel like could fit you. And that's kind of my advice from my side.
Amazing. And
Awesome.
I would add to both those responses. I mean, I totally agree with Alex on the technical standpoint, and Allison with regards to learning and then being, and reaching out. So it's kind of like, have an idea to be able to, be technical or learn, how technology is built, but then also reach out. So there's a lot of, technology startups that are out there. If somebody comes to my inbox and says, I'm eager to learn something, I have this type of skill set and I want to build upon it, then we could, coach you and find, where you fit. I mean, we could teach you how to use, some software tools or some design tools, see what your strengths and skill sets are, and then build upon those. They might be in marketing, they might be in sales, they might be in writing, they might be in content creation, they might be in, and software development. But if you got a passion for technology and perhaps have a passion for industry and you're willing to learn, most importantly, you're willing to learn. I've got a strong skill set. I think I could build, further upon it. I'd love to, continue, help you on the journey of whatever you're building. A founder such as I would, respond and say, all right, sure, let's hop on a call and see what you'd like to do, and see how we could, help you in your journey as well, for what you like to create and build. So yeah, appreciate both responses. As a founder, looking for folks to bring onto the team, that both of these responses resonate very, very well. So
absolutely, thank you for all those perspectives. We have literally like 2 minutes left, and I wanted to get to this one question that I thought was a really great question. And I'm sure many folks probably all are wondering, and it was directed to Kam from Jonathan. It says, when you're developing a product, do you find that the music ecosystem allows enough growth opportunity in terms of revenue, or is it important to find opportunities outside of the music space to apply the tech that you're developing? So just really briefly, Kam, can you just, I know that's probably hard to summarize this briefly, but
that's a really good question, Jonathan. It's a really strong question. I think that when one is developing a product, I mean, again, I'm speaking from my perspective. I never developed the product with the intention of making revenues. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, I developed the product to use for myself to solve a purpose. And then I'm in my own purpose. I knew other folks around me, and furthermore would have the same issue and need the same solution. But again, trying to expand on what you try to do, you do have to focus on revenue. And I could say that the music community has allowed us to generate revenues, and it has been great. It depends on the product. I think it depends on the product. There's different products and just different streams of revenue that we're building a productivity tool. So somebody that needs it to work on a piece of their craft, and they're able to make a purchase as long as it fits within their budget and the rest of the tool sets that they're buying. And there are lots of musicians and folks out there. So yeah, I do feel first it shouldn't be focused on, but if you need to fall back on it, there is enough. We started off as a music centric tool. But at the same time, we started noticing that people that work with audio in general are using it. So not only music creators, but audio podcasters, voiceover artists, video producers, etc. So without the intention of it, I built the product to work on music, and now we have all these other use case and people using it, which is great for the company. But I wouldn't focus on it primarily, and I wouldn't say that I'm building a product. And I don't want to build a product because the music folks are not willing to pay. If they need it, they'll pay for it. And I find that more of the music folks, since they're again focused, since they have access to marketing tools or productivity tools, they're more reluctant to pay for these types of tools. So the market, the appetite for spend is definitely increasing as well.
I know we're running short of time, but I have the exact opposite perspective from you, Kam. And that. Can I do
two different products, two different product streams.
Well, just in that, I think money is so important, not because everybody's trying to get rich, but because it facilitates the mission in a larger way.